A massive transfer of wealth is right around the corner, and your constituent base is changing. Are your fundraising efforts ready? This episode is sponsored by QGive by Bloomerang, an online fundraising solution that helps thousands of nonprofits raise money for their causes. Through online giving and event registration forms, text fundraising, peer-to-peer campaigns, and auction events, QGive's tools help fundraisers like you raise more. QGive surveyed donors of all ages to create the brand new Generational Giving Report, a comprehensive guide to help you best connect with constituents of all generations. To learn how new generations want to support you, hear from you, and stay connected with you, head to jcsocialmarketing.com/QGive. That's jcsocialmarketing.com/QGIV. to be notified when the report is released and to receive your free copy. On to the show. Hello, and welcome to Nonprofit Nation. I'm your host, Julia Campbell, and I'm going to sit down with nonprofit industry experts, fundraisers, marketers, and everyone in between to get real and discuss what it takes to build that movement that you've been dreaming of. I created the Nonprofit Nation podcast to share practical wisdom and strategies to help you confidently find your voice, definitively grow your audience, and effectively build your movement. If you're a nonprofit newbie or an experienced professional who's looking to get more visibility, reach more people, and create even more impact, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. I would bet that you've heard a lot about AI and its power to transform social impact work at every level. And as a nonprofit staff member, consultant, executive director, you might feel excited, scared, tentative, thrilled, or a combination of all of it. From its potential in donor engagement and fundraising to enhancing program effectiveness, AI has shown that it can amplify the impact of nonprofits, but how can we peel back the layers of AI's transformative potential in the nonprofit sector to go beyond the hype to see what's really working and how it can help us? So I'm Julia Campbell. I'm your host of Nonprofit Nation. Thanks for being with me today. Today I'm sitting down with Justin Spelhaug, Corporate Vice President and Global Head of Tech for Social Impact at Microsoft Philanthropies, and Nathan Cook, Chief Information Technology Officer of Special Olympics International. And I'm going to get their advice on getting started on a digital transformation journey, incorporating AI tools into fundraising and program management with a focus on the ethical and inclusive adoption of these emerging technologies. So, welcome, Justin. Welcome, Nathan. We have a lot to discuss. I am so excited to have you both on the podcast today.
Great to be here.
Yay, I know, it's so great to be here. And it's been like a long time coming, and I'm just thrilled. So I usually start with my guest's story about how they kind of got into nonprofit and social impact work, what intrigued them. So maybe, Justin, do you want to share your story first?
Sure. Yeah. I think my story starts where many of our stories start, and that's with our families. My father was executive director of senior services for Snohomish County. So for those in your audience that are focused on elderly poor, Meals on Wheels, minor home repair, transportation, housing, that's where he worked, and he took me to work a lot. As a social worker, your salary is only so high, and so I went to work with him and learned through osmosis, and then also went to work with my mom, who was a child protective investigator for Child Protective Services here in Seattle. And they just really created an impression that service is important, service to your community, service to your country. And I've had the opportunity to do both of those things. I joined Microsoft a long time ago, and I've kind of been a serial social entrepreneur, if there's such a term, starting in many different ways, but starting working in Asia, where I helped open subsidiaries like Bangladesh and Sri Lanka to bring technology to emerging markets. moving from there to Microsoft Research, where I had the opportunity to work in this group called the Unlimited Potential Group, where we try to design technologies to make computing lower cost. So that's when we developed ultra low cost PCs, Windows Starter, some other technologies like that. And for the last 7 years, I've had the opportunity to really build and create the Tech for Social Impact team that focuses on supporting nonprofits, the United Nations, and more around the world with the technology they need to advance missions. And today we support over 325,000 organizations on our cloud, and we'll donate and discount probably about $4.5 billion this year alone to that sector in this new social business construct that we have. So just really grateful to be here, grateful to have the experience I've had, and grateful to be here with Nathaniel talking about Special Olympics.
Yes. All right, Nathan, you want to share about how you got into the work you're doing now?
Yeah, happy to. I think we're going to find that it's a similar story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our family tends to inform the direction we go in. And my stepmother was a teacher at a school that focused on students with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And from about 13 to 17, I volunteered with her over the summers to help her with the classes, with the students. And I developed a real love for, in particular, supporting those with intellectual and developmental disabilities. After that, I've spent really most of my career focused in the for-profit world. And coming out of that, I really decided I wanted my energy to go to moving the needle and creating value in a more important way. I didn't want to spend my time and energy generating revenue for somebody. I wanted to spend it generating positive impact on the world.
Yep. I really love that. I think that's fantastic. And you are the Chief Information Technology Officer for Special Olympics. Is this a new title, or how long has this position been around?
Yeah, so we've been in the space of providing technology for our programs for, probably about 10 years. So we've had this title for a bit. It's new for me. I am stepping into the shoes just this year. I've been leading digital transformation nationally for Special Olympics for about the past 3 years. So this is an opportunity to take that good work I've been doing on a national basis and bring it to a global scope and scale.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to dive right in to the work. I've been reading that Special Olympics is doing a lot around technology that is both driving both productivity and inclusivity, and that Special Olympics has included athletes and employees with intellectual disabilities in the development process in a way that democratizes everyone's ability and ensures inclusion. So I would love to hear about this process. Like, Nathan, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm happy to start. So anytime we're building a system for anything, it's important to think about who's going to be using it and design it, meet them where they're at, build it for them. And the best way you can do that is by including them on day one, understanding what they need, understanding what has worked well for them and what doesn't work well. And this is anyone you're building a tool for. In particular, I was doing this with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So what we did is we started with focus groups. We brought a number of athletes or people with intellectual disabilities, their families, their coaches into a room. And we asked them to talk about what was easy, what worked well, what systems did they enjoy using, what websites did they go to regularly and engage with on their own. And we took that information and used it to help inform the user experience and user interface aspects of the portals we're building. So they basically helped us inform the design on day one. And then we worked with them throughout the process to validate it, to ensure that what we were building really met their needs, that they were able to accomplish the goals that we had set out for them with these tools. So from day one, we included people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in our evaluation, design, development, and all of our pilots as well. It's a philosophy of our organization that we don't do anything for them without them.
Mm-hmm. Justin, do you want to talk about how maybe Microsoft was supportive in this journey and it's a part of your mission?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I just want to zoom out for a moment.
Yes.
man, when you look at the global population, right, 8.1 billion people, 16% of that population, so 1.3 billion as best we can tell, have a disability or accessibility need of some kind, be it physical, mental, socio-emotional. And that's a huge part. Just if you just think about that number, it's a huge part of the global population. And we have to build technology that not only works well for them, but allows them to fully participate with all of the talents they have to drive innovation and drive impact. And, we've been working for years on technology that would help in some form or fashion. So as an example, we created this immersive reader technology that helps people that have dyslexia better learn reading. But then we started to add in AI capabilities, AI and Azure Cognitive Services capabilities. And so that allowed us to speak to devices, allowed devices to speak to us, allowed devices to see and read, and so many more examples. And a great example of that is that's captured in Teams. We've got closed captioning. That's pretty awesome that you can read. Or in Windows, you can now talk to your computer with your voice. Generative AI has allowed us to really take a step forward in a big way with Nathan and team. If you think about, as an example, things like Microsoft 365 Copilot, they're really able to help individuals with different disabilities engage in more natural ways. What's an example? So with Copilot or these language models, you can get summarization to help people with vision loss cover more ground. You can create content with voice prompts to help people with mobility disabilities. Or you can create pivot tables through natural language to help us all, because pivot tables are hard. So,
yes.
Right. But it just creates...
Someone just out there just like almost drove off a cliff.
I think they did, remembering those. Exactly. But it's just really simplified and enriched the way that people with all kinds of abilities can interact with computing. And then we go further than that, and we create special purpose applications like Seeing AI, which is where you can use your mobile phone to recognize objects, whether that's a product, a daily task, reading a recipe, and have that spoken back to you so that you can interact with the world around you. And that's allowing people who are blind and with vision impairment just do so much more. And we are just at the very tip of what we're going to be able to do here with organizations like Special Olympics. And I think Nathan will have some ideas to share there, but it's core to the way that we think about digital transformation, so that we're able to ensure that all of the athletes and all of the employees in Special Olympics are able to maximize their own personal potential.
Right. And I just know the technology is moving so fast. I was just at the Association of Fundraising Professionals International Conference in Toronto, and AI was certainly a focal point, but I felt like the entire focus was on generative AI and even just ChatGPT. Yeah. And what we're talking about today is just goes so far beyond the scope of just generative AI. And one of the speakers that I saw is Nathan Chappell from Donor Search. He co-wrote The Generosity Crisis, and he founded fundraising.ai, just fantastic thought leader. And he said, AI is the dumbest it will ever be today. Like, that's the dumbest it's ever going to be this minute. And then now it's smarter. It's already smarter. It's just smarter, even as we're recording this. And thinking about how fast it moves, I'm so interested to hear, Nathan, about the Special Olympics digital transformation journey. And now you're transitioning into an AI transformation journey. So talk about the reasoning behind this and sort of what it means. And did it freak people out at your organization?
Well, it's still
the
freaking
robots
people
were
out.
coming. I don't know. It's still freaking people out. Yes.
Yeah. Like today, they are still freaked out. So yes, it certainly did. We get all sorts of concerns. Hey, am I going to lose my job? Am I going to be replaced by a robot? The answer is no. We aren't looking to replace anybody. We are looking to supplement people, to make them more effective, to help them, as Justin said, be their best selves, and to democratize ability. I use an example often. I'm not an artist. I couldn't draw a drawing for the life of me. But with AI, I can get something that's pretty close to what I'm imagining.
Mm-hmm.
It has essentially democratized the ability to create art. Now, I would never take one of those drawings that AI generated and push it forward to the public because it needs to be cleaned up and prepared, and people have to come in and supplement what AI has done. It's a tool, it enhances us. So, in particular, I've been using that kind of communication as a way to set that guidance around fear about AI. It's not something to be afraid of, it's something to lean into. In my life, I've seen a number of watershed moments around technology, right? We've seen the internet come to light, and it was scary. It was information being let out to the world in uncontrolled ways, and people were concerned about what that meant. And those who leaned into the internet and embraced technology saw a huge lift in their ability to be successful. It globalized information. I mean, today, thanks to the internet, we know what shakshuka is, which is a breakfast dish from,
My
a different place on the planet.
Love shakshuka. That is so funny that you mentioned that. I didn't know other people had really heard of it. My kids randomly love that.
It's wonderful. It's a wonderful dish, but you would never have heard about it, before the internet essentially globalized this understanding of information. And I see AI essentially democratizing ability and information in a way that's even greater than the internet, greater than mobile phones. So I think it's really easy when you're passionate about it, when you're passionate about technology and innovation in this space, to get people to come along. They feel that energy, that excitement, that passion. They think about those past experiences they've had with technology watershed moments, and they realize that, yeah, maybe they were scary at first, but the end results were they became part of our lives. I mean, today, the mobile phones, the internet, it's part of our daily DNA. It's something that everyone does every day. Not everyone, but a very, very large portion of society. And it is something that if we look at AI in that way, it becomes less scary. It's kind of the future. It's where we're going. Now, above and beyond that, it's value proposition. It's showing people what the value behind AI is, that we can make them more efficient, that we can save them hours a day, that we can help the org do more. Every nonprofit is capacity constrained. Every nonprofit. Well, maybe not everyone I've ever talked to is. And
I've not met one, Nathan. So
I don't think I've ever met one that would say they're not, but yes.
Right. And so AI is a tool that allows us to alleviate some of that capacity constraint. We can take the capacity we have and do more with it. We can be more effective. We can be more productive. That's been the way I've really sold it and driven the change. Now, beyond that, it's bringing people along on the journey. We've kicked off our Copilot launch with, dozens of training sessions held all over the globe at different times and different hours, with participants from every sector of the organization, including our participants with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And building that series of champions throughout the organization has done more than I could do to drive adoption, acceptance, and that cultural shift towards AI transformation, not just digital transformation.
And do you mind, Julie, if I just build on that for a second?
Sure.
Yeah, I think, we had this nonprofit global leaders summit that Nathan was at, and we were able to bring together thousands of nonprofits to start talking about the role of AI. And there are a lot of things we need to think about so that we deploy this ethically, effectively, inclusively, and we can talk about some of those things. But I think the big takeaway from many of the organizations that I had the opportunity to interact with was, we can't afford not to get started because the pressure of our missions are too great. We've got too many people to serve. We've got too little resourcing, and we need step changes and efficiencies. And so, this formula of getting the knowledge and kind of practical experience. How do people write good prompts, as an example? Co-creating with the users who will be using the technology to understand the scenarios that they want to support. And then implementing the right policy and data classification tools so that the tools are reasoning over the information you want them to reason over, are all three key practices that Nathan and other great CIOs are implementing to get their organizations ready.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's a really great point. And it goes back to, it looks like the theme is involving the people that you're designing it for in the actual creation and execution and implementation of it, rather than having it be sort of top down dictated. involving the communities or the staff or the employees, the people, the volunteers that are going to be using it and deploying it in its creation and its implementation. I think it's so important. So just to play devil's advocate here, I think that the both of you, and I'm kind of on this boat as well, we view AI very optimistically, sort of like a key enabler for scaling and efficiency, helping us do more with less. So Nathan, I would throw this to you. What considerations and challenges, what does Special Olympics see? Like, what are some of maybe the ethical or productivity challenges, or just any other challenges, considerations that you see with deploying AI in the movement?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, the biggest challenge is actually change management, which is getting back to bringing people along on the journey from day one, building those advocate groups, getting people bought in and excited so they can talk to others about their excitement. But above and beyond that, I think there is some skills gap that we need to speak to. So Justin mentioned writing prompts. Prompt writing is something that can come very naturally to some people and really will require some coaching and primers for other people. We've found a lot of success in giving people example prompts that both get what they're looking for and don't, with a couple of small changes. But we've also found a lot of success in just talking to them about what and why prompts work the way they do. I don't know if this is still the case, but in early language models, there was there was a benefit in asking nicely, because the way the language model navigated the linguistic index, it was more likely to find positive answers if the question was phrased politely. And that's because on the internet, where it's sourcing most of its information for, you are more likely to find a positive answer when you phrase the question positively and nicely than if you come out making an aggressive statement or demand. And so being able to help people see the underworkings of how AI is coming with its solutions will help them write better prompts, and that becomes education. So I see education as being a key piece. Some of it's technical, right? Justin mentioned needing to do data cataloging and provisioning and security. You have to make sure your data is appropriately secured and connected, available. A lot of nonprofits likely have their data in a lot of different places. So if you've got your data in Dropbox and also in OneDrive and also in Smartsheets, you are going to have a harder time utilizing AI effectively, because you will need to find some tool that bridges all of these disparate environments. And so there is some technical challenge here in that disparity of systems and their compatibility with a singular AI model. So those are a couple places. There's a number of others, but those are probably the biggest challenges that I have run into so far.
Justin, do you have anything to add to the
Yeah,
challenges you're seeing?
Yeah, and I'll give you a slightly, I agree with all of Nathan's points, and then I'll add a perspective here. I mean, technology can either be a tool or it can be a weapon, and AI is no different, right? And when we think about some of the big challenges that we're facing, we are facing big challenges around how do we think about inclusion and the entire global South, or global majority, we'll call it. How do we ensure that AI is in their hands as well as in our hands in creating benefit? How do we correct for bias and fairness so that all groups are represented? How do we support and build the right ethical guardrails? There are 4 billion people that will go through an election in the next 18 months. And how do we ensure AI is creating value and not disruption in that process? And I'm not here to tell you we have all the answers, right? Because I think the entire world is learning how to do this. But what we have done is roll out what we call these AI access principles that really pivot on 3 concepts: access, fairness, and responsibility. And they're important, right? Because access is all about ensuring that developers in every corner of the world have access to the same models we're working with here in Redmond. So if you're in Nairobi, you're in South Africa, you're in Bangkok, where I used to live, or Sri Lanka, you're using these tools to figure out how to power processes. And that is critical importance of as we think about inclusion, and also as we think about bias. Fairness is all about, the second principle is all about ensuring that you're able to take your innovation where it's most productive for you. You're not necessarily locked in to one ecosystem when you create some innovation. If you're a software developer or working for a nonprofit, and there's a number of steps we're taking there. And then societal responsibilities is critical, and that's in part why we rolled out our responsible AI principles around reliability, safety, privacy, inclusiveness. And these aren't just principles like on a PowerPoint. It is actually how we do engineering. It's how we work with customer engineering with Nathan and team when we build applications. Every single one of those applications, if we design them, will go through a review. To ensure that we've got the right guardrails on board. So there's a lot of steps that we need to take, I think, to make sure that AI is a tool and not a weapon. And that is what the access principles help guide us, I think, really create a North Star to do that.
I love that. I think that's so important. And now here's the, $10 million question, $100 million question. What about ROI, return on investment? So Nathan, for Special Olympics, how are you measuring the success and the outcomes of using these tools?
Yeah, so today we're in an early pilot. And with that pilot, we are doing biweekly surveys. We have them getting together in groups and sharing with us information about impact, savings, and time, use cases that are working particularly well. Coming out of that pilot group, we intend to take all of the information we gathered through the surveys, through the discussions, and put that into an estimate for what the time savings were for the organization. So I can't share today exactly what that looks like, but what I can say is that for my own use of just Copilot M365 for productivity, I have seen savings that are easily in the tens of hours a week. To a point where I'm actually doing more work than I probably was doing before I had Copilot because of how much more effective and efficient it has made me. In particular, meeting summaries, being able to very quickly understand what needs to happen after a meeting, get tasks put together, drafting quick responses to emails. The savings are just near endless in terms of productivity, and the impact in my day is measurable already. So I have no doubt that we'll be able to show an ROI estimation for this, and it will be based on kind of all of those learnings through this pilot, through all of the departments we work with, and all of the types of employees / abilities of employees that we work with.
Right. I think that's so important for people to hear that. Just in terms of productivity alone, I mean, I'm just thinking of an email I received just today from my son's baseball team. My son is 9. It was probably 3 pages had I printed it out. And I put it into a generative AI tool and I said, I am too busy to read this. Please pull out any important information and action items for me. And it did it in 1 page. And I just think of the time that was saved because I don't have an intern. A lot of nonprofits, they don't have an intern. They don't have an executive assistant. They don't have someone that can synthesize those reports or translate a presentation or put emails into an easy to read format. So to use these tools, even just that's kind of like a baby step to me. I think there are so many more important ways, but Justin, you want to add to that?
No, you're absolutely right. That's exactly how the ROI is achieved. And when we look at different organizations, we see some pretty impressive ROI numbers so far. But if you kind of think about the I side of this, right? And you take the Modern Work Copilot as an example. It's $30 per user per month. Nathan would look at that, and that's not cheap, right? $30 per user a month is not cheap. If you look at an employee that on average costs, let's say $70,000 in terms of salary and benefits, the math works out to they need to save 54 minutes per month to break even. And if you just take that one activity that you're talking about, or you take about like grant analysis, writing a grant proposal, donor analysis, personalized donor acknowledgement, all these different ways you can use language models, meeting summarization, pick that one, right? Is it feasible to get to 54 minutes per month? Yeah, I think we could all look at our personal experience and go, absolutely. And that's not the objective. The objective is to 10x that, 20x that, 30x that, so that we can create more time for those employees to work with the athletes in Special Olympics and do the magic that they do. It's not writing proposals. It's interacting and making the athletes, the heroes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. You want to add, Nathan?
Yeah, I was going to say one of my coaches put that very same thing in a really great way, Justin, which is more time playing, less time on paperwork.
Absolutely.
And I think it's really succinct and speaks to what that really looks like for us.
Because paperwork, that's not their strength. Coaching is the strength. And I always think about that. Like, my clients don't hire me to do paperwork. They hire me for thoughts and ideas and inspiration and synthesizing complicated topics and giving them new ways to approach difficult challenges. So paperwork is not what they're hiring me to do, and certainly not what I signed up for, and not my strength. And I think that's such an interesting perspective, because especially in the nonprofit sector, so many executive directors, even development directors, program directors, come from either a social work background or they come from a program background. Mm-hmm. They don't have MBAs. They're not, it's not something that is their strength necessarily, but program management and implementation and execution is really their strength. So how can we use these tools to take away a little bit more of the busy work so they can focus more on the impact work?
And Julie, I love that. And that, that's why we call this technology co-pilot, because the whole idea, and I'm not trying to be too corporate here, as I truly believe this, is about amplifying human potential. Because if you think about what's hard in the Special Olympics mission, as an example, really synthesizing the needs of the athletes and translating that into effective programming that unlocks their individual potential at an individual, that's a very human skill, right? And if we can get rid of all the other stuff and just make that the focus, right, then we can reach more athletes and they can reach more potential. And so that it is not about, there are certain jobs that will be impacted, but that's not the objective. The objective is to allow people more time to do the special work that humans can do, like that.
Yeah.
Yep. I read a quote, and I'm not going to be able to attribute it, but I'll put it in the show notes. It was by an artist, and she was saying, I don't want AI to do my art and writing. I want AI to do my paperwork and, bookkeeping and note-taking so that I have more time to do my art and writing. And that's 100%, should be the premise and the way people are thinking about it. So for me, as we're kind of wrapping up, I know that my audience, they tend to push back. They tend to say, well, I'm in a very small organization. I'm sure, Nathan, you've heard this a lot. What advice do you have for a nonprofit listening that does not have, a chief IT officer or someone that specializes in this? What is maybe a baby step or some kind of tiny implementation that they can take away?
The easiest baby step, if they wanted to get into using generative AI for productivity and they are a smaller organization with limited technical capacity, is actually probably chat.bing.com. I'm not here selling that for Microsoft, even though, you can pay me. Yeah, well, it's actually that it's a free, available to use resource that does appropriate data protection and would enable them to dip their toes in the productivity and efficiency gains AI can generate for them. That is the easiest way. It is readily available. It doesn't require deep technical know-how. And I believe most people have access to it already as of today. Justin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that went global already. So that would be my recommendation if you want to dip your toes into generative AI for productivity. Other than that, it would be start thinking about getting some technical staff so you can start building the processes and tools in-house that would support you. But the lightweight, easy way to join chat.bing would be my recommendation.
Perfect. Justin, you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I agree. Of the 375, I said 25, 75,000 organizations by the end of the year that we'll be managing. The average number of seats they have running our technology, which is mainly Microsoft 365, is 7, right? So they don't have IT. And Nathan is exactly right. They all have access to our Microsoft Copilot through Bing. And that can do from donor proposals to grant analysis. It can do a lot of unique things. In addition to that, there is a LinkedIn learning pathway. It's 4 hours, but you can take it in bite-sized chunks, and it really teaches you and it's free. How do I think about writing prompts? How do I think about generative AI? As you said, Julia, how do I think about these other AI capabilities like machine vision, machine language? Where do they fit in? And how do I use these in my day-to-day work? And Julia, I can make sure that we get you the link, and maybe we can surface the link in the
absolutely in show notes. Yep,
that would be great. And then finally, I think once you've taken those 2 steps, then taking a look at deploying Microsoft 365 Copilot, because you already have Microsoft 365, that is another way you can get added capability without having to manage, necessarily a big IT thing.
Fantastic. Oh, and Nathan, one other question before we fully wrap up. Where do you go to keep on top of digital and AI? That's a question I get all the time. I'm just interested. What are some of your favorite resources? And I can link to them in the show notes.
My answer is not going to be the most exciting one. I tend to utilize 2 things in predominance when it comes to getting news. One is Reddit, actually. I am a member of a number of Reddits. I can share with you some links, including ones that are centered on AI. But the second is I tend to utilize Google Alerts. And so I have Google let me know what is going on in the world of AI, so I don't have to go out and look for it.
You let it come to you rather than...
Yeah, exactly. So those are the 2 ways that I tend to go to, either Reddit for the more real-time kind of information exchange, and specifically Google Alerts to get the broader global perspective of what's going on with AI.
I love that. Justin, what do you use? Who do you follow?
Well, I follow a lot. We get a lot of information here from Microsoft, but my number one job is to actually be plugged in with Nathan and so many other CIOs on the ground, program leaders on the ground, CEOs of nonprofits on the ground, because the most important thing for me isn't necessarily what's the new technical capability immediately, but what are the needs and how do I create the match and create new channels for nonprofits to get value from this. So I get a lot of my insight from that. I did want to highlight it's it's Career Essentials in Generative AI by Microsoft and LinkedIn. If you punch that into the browser, there are 6 courses freely available for anybody listening.
Yeah, and I love the work that LinkedIn's doing. Yeah. Did you want to add, Nathan?
Yeah, actually, one other note is that there's a really great TSI newsletter that gives me updates specifically on the Microsoft AI and what is happening with the Microsoft product set. So that is another great resource if you are in the nonprofit space looking to get into AI.
I love that. Thank you. I will link to all of this in the show notes. And for my listeners, why don't we just end with Nathan, where can we hook up with you, meet you online? Where do you spend time? And how can we find out more about what Special Olympics is doing?
Well, SpecialOlympics.org is where you can find out more about what Special Olympics is doing. But I'm also present on LinkedIn, and I do update there occasionally. Outside of that, you can find me at various conferences, hopefully speaking about AI and sharing my excitement for it.
Fantastic. And what about you, Justin?
Yep, you can find me on LinkedIn as well, Justin Spelhaug. And then for any information that you need, Microsoft.com/nonprofits is the location, as well as Nathan highlighted, subscribing to the newsletter is a great way to get information.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much. I know you have such busy schedules, changing the world and just making it more inclusive and making it more productive. So thank you both so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
Well, hey there. I wanted to say thank you for tuning into my show and for listening all the way to the end. If you really enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast app, and you'll get new episodes downloaded as soon as they come out. I would love if you left me a rating or a review, because this tells other people that my podcast is worth listening to. And then me and my guests can reach even more earbuds and create even more impact. So that's pretty much it. I'll be back soon with a brand new episode. But until then, You can find me on Instagram at JuliaCampbell77. Keep changing the world, you nonprofit unicorn.